Alright. Last test, I think my audio is good, but this is a scrim, I believe, or the week 1 game that they played for preseason. I'm doing a VOD review for OC Hammer. So let's start the clip.
Okay. Yeah, you gotta listen in order to fucking make calls.
Okay.
But
I think he was trying to make some sort of joke, but just sounded like an asshole. It's okay. I've done it.
Bastion is kind of a weird pick on this, but the tank comp is really good.
He's
So.
trying.
You want to call your pulls
I
out.
don't have a shield.
That was just your first one, so.
Lucio's coming behind. Lucio's frozen.
Yeah, I'm at 71 health. Arista needs heals.
I'm healing Arista.
You could probably rotate here because you have the Bastion to the left. Holding this corner doesn't do a whole lot for you with the Bastion because your sight lines aren't super good. The Bastion can't really... There you go. Perfect, perfect. That's a good rotate.
Yeah, we have a...
Three behind us,
Watch
three
this,
behind us,
coming
guys.
up left here. Or someone's coming up left.
Three to the right back there. But I'm gonna try to play.
okay, just
He's
play
looking
into that
for
ball
a
right here.
flash the Bastion.
Yeah.
I will Shrek.
Okay, so far I'd say just make sure you're calling your pulls.
You can go left side.
You can pull above the shield. I think you're kind of getting a little antsy with him.
Oh, he's full heals.
You ran way too far away from your team there, so you were out of position, but the team really pulled it together and you got your shield down in time, so worked out. This generally is Arista, you don't want to be chasing anything.
Arista is half health.
I'm gonna pause it for a second. So when you went and like looked for that tracer or whatever was way behind you, you kind of left your team open to their whole team pushing through left, and you were kind of running in late. So generally, you don't ever want to be doing that. Your hog can have some time to roam, but you want to be staying with your Bastion for the majority of the game.
I'm coming back. You need Lucio.
I'm speed boosting on you. You need boosting. Not speed boosting, right?
Hey, let's pivot back. Let's pivot back. Always keep him guessing.
We got.
Probably gonna come left side again here.
We got watch for dragons here. Make sure we keep beating
Hold
Sandy.
on. Yeah. Clear combo. What were you asking, Graham?
Did we ever get to the tree?
Yes. I don't believe that.
Yes.
I think so.
Left side, left side, left side.
Yeah. Keep going. Yeah. See, hey, look at that.
They're gonna go all the way around.
Alright.
Here it comes. Good call, Truth.
Yeah.
You want to be calling your pulls still. When you saw that Arista shield went down, that would have been a good time to pull and get your hog in. If you're winning the shield war, which you should be with the Bastion, right when that shield goes down or when it's getting weak is the best time to shoot your pull, your halt.
So we should be looking to stay around our team. It's okay. No, I know, but that's
Wait, how
doing scrims. Look to learn.
We can use Nail here, and then we can probably use Hoggle and
Don't use Hoggle right away though.
No,
Try
just
to pull it
after
through the road.
Do not go up top of that. Do not do this.
Alright, nail up.
Good pull.
I got stunned out of my ult. Okay. Just on a
No. Lucio's right on us, bro. The truth.
Alright, so that whole fight you had your ult, and you definitely could have used it because the only one even in your bubble or close to your bubble was the Lucio on their team. And that would have definitely helped turn the tides. I think you might have gotten a little distracted just trying to frag and didn't realize you had your ult, but you could have turned the fight in your favor with that ult. I definitely think it would have been useful a lot earlier on in that fight, pretty much right when you got it.
Get in there, bitch! Oh!
Get him!
Okay.
Come back with Nail.
Oh my god.
It's just their DPS. It's just their DPS.
Good for you. Straight up.
Huge wall. Huge wall. Wow! What?
I don't know.
Can we pivot left? Can we pivot left?
Alright, that's a good rotation. You're going to want to use your supercharger early here. Drop it.
Lucio behind.
Okay.
Luckily, Dash.
You used it in the end, but I think you would have had some better opportunities to use it just to make sure your team's going to win that
I don't
fight.
need that.
Especially with really no one there to challenge your ult.
Pull McCrean. Never mind, I killed him before he got there.
You guys,
That's a
good
nice
job.
shot.
Everybody in the way.
Yeah.
Alright.
Hey, what is this team, by the way? Are they?
Okay.
I have a widow as well.
Okay, you're Hammond now.
And you. Widow.
It's a good first slam.
I'm bothering them. They should be. You should be good to do that.
Widow's on the right side, I think.
I'm tickling right now.
I'm trying to boop his ass off.
Yeah, you want to try to never lose momentum as Hammond. So you probably should have let go of your grapple when you tried to swing around again and just use the speed from getting out of your grapple to push them or run away. You kind of got fully stuck.
Huge, rat.
And you're about to be even more up because your ball's gonna be yours.
Alright,
Reinhardt.
good slam.
Come on, Lucio. Ryan. We gotta get this Lucio, guys. Lucio!
I'll risk you.
We gotta, if we're gonna make a call, we have to follow through. We all called Lucio, and then everyone went and chased other people. We had Lucio down low, and then we all just like gave up on him.
Did I have Blade next fight?
Alright, both sides are out.
And your
Both teams.
ball get
Thank you.
Lucio's not good enough. Lucio.
Just don't
Good job.
Okay. We got up.
Widow got her. Widow straight. Round across. Yep. You're down.
moving out.
Okay.
Alright, you're up. Or you're down one.
So right there, you want to be going for the squishies, not the tanks. He slammed into both their tanks, but that Widow and I think they had another sniper were both in the back of point. That would have been a lot better move to go slam them over the tanks because you're not getting any value out of that. Also, keeping your momentum going. I'm seeing quite a few times you're losing like a ton of your momentum right in front of them. That kind of turns you into an ult battery.
Watch him. Oh.
yeah.
It's okay, just contest. Keep contesting. We got a good contesting.
Yeah, that's that. I think that was yeah. They invested a lot of ults there.
Their Widow's back. Mercy's half.
Oh, thanks, Mercy. How did you get a red? I'm confused. Proud of
Keep it up. No ultimate. Just make it.
Mercy's half.
Owie.
Okay, target prioritization. You're focusing a whole lot on their tanks as Hammond when he's most effective on those squishies, just like Winston is. You should try to be communicating with your Winston and having him dive the stuff that you're slamming as well. That's a big feat. You don't want to engage without your hook smacking them or something like that. It does a lot of damage, so if you're coming in with no like hook or anything, hook damage, you're basically just feeding coming in with zero momentum.
No ults here. We're coming up on some big ones.
Genji.
Hey, Godfather, you want to jump this top left with me? Never mind, they're not there.
Widow's right.
That's good. You made a ton of space for your team there. That was a really good play.
Fat, dude, let's go. Ryan's one. Yes.
You never want to use your mines without a slam. Like generally, you want to be hooking up into the sky, slam, and then hitting Y, hitting your combo, your bombs, and then slamming. and that stops them from being able to escape the mines a lot better. If you just throw them on the ground, everyone can run out of them, like before they even activate. You're doing a really good job making space, though. Slamming their tanks around, but not actually pushing into them, like with your machine guns or anything. Just making a ton of space. It's really good.
I'm gonna be back with a bit of.
Watch for dragons here. Say eat for dragons. They're on bigger brig. Watch over the brig. Watch out. Watch out. Say, watch for dragons here there.
I'm just trying to slow him down here.
Make sure you got your grapple before you go in.
I don't know if they had a Hanzo. Here, I'm good, prop. I'm good.
What is time left?
Get Hanzo, get Hanzo.
Nice shot, Grant.
Oh, yeah. I'll take it.
Unlucky.
Oh, we charged it.
That sucks.
Yeah, that's fine.
On defense.
Okay, now slam in there with your mines.
It's like a spy, it's not gonna reach.
Alright.
Yeah. Good job. Man, the Widow was sick, and I love.
So you did a lot better job of just like disrupting their tanks and stuff after you push through with the nano blade. Just your alt combo you gotta work on. Just get up in the air, hit Y, and then slam. And that's the combo.
I don't know.
Skip past
Yeah, you
this.
saved my hat. Actually, you almost.
Okay. Close. Oh, my fault.
Whoa.
You.
Swap on forward.
Attackers incoming. Defend behind my body.
They have a Lucio.
There we go. We're on the high ground. I'm gonna be
For
with
now,
them.
I'll drop down.
I moved it.
I don't know. They must be coming right, dude. I don't
Oh,
see
they
them
think
all.
they don't
Yeah.
get.
Are they coming? Are they going ghosts?
Can't see Widow. No,
No. Oops, shit. I'm fucked.
You should let your team know when you're rotating. Like, your whole team was just sitting there high ground when you got knocked down, or you fell down, or whatever. You want to let your team know when you're doing that, because oftentimes they're not constantly watching you. And if they know where your Orisa is set up, that's where they rotate to for their bunker if they're getting bullied.
Pulling.
Indeed they do.
Careful. What? What'd you say? Yeah, we gotta pivot around.
Okay, follow.
Okay, good call. Good rotation. You did a good job knowing where to set up.
He goes in.
He has shatter. Ryan.
Big old.
Alright, not bad. You did a good job of dancing between your shield. The Widow was kind of unfortunate, but I think you did enough to protect your team to help them win that fight, even if you do die. That's a good death.
For next push. We just call if Diva has used,
Ready to be deployed.
Oh, yeah.
The Reaper,
And they swapped Reaper. They're on Reaper. Oh, shit. We should hold the high ground again. Hold the high ground again.
I can't. I don't have time.
Watch them severely. Oh, there's the
Drop back. Roach, drop back.
Alright, so you have your ult. And right now you're pushing forward into them, when in reality, when you see them turning the corner like that, you can keep your position further back and just drop your ult in a safe spot, and you're going to have a huge advantage that whole team fight. It's going to either force them to push into you or force them to run away from you. So pushing into him when you know you have your supercharger is a risky move.
Ryan. So
So now they got on top of you, and they're all over point. And now you have your supercharger down, but you don't have the space in between you and the enemy team to keep it up with the rest of your teammates. Whereas they would all be getting the benefit from it if you dropped it early right as they were coming in and stayed back.
From behind.
Widow's high ground. I need help with the my shit.
They got Diva Bomb, damn it, or they just used it, shit.
You have none.
I'm just making sure.
Oh, I didn't know you died.
Eddie, if you die again, can you swap to, no, I'm getting out, I'm getting out. Diva? Yeah. High ground.
High ground and not getting farmed by the Reaper.
Ew, good shit.
We're starting to work on this run. What happened? I dinked him a bunch, but it wasn't that hard. Oh shit, they got the res.
You have 2 thrones.
Reaper, please help. Please turn around, Eddie. Please turn around and help with Reaper. Please turn around, Eddie.
Okay, so here, you could have had your shield once you killed that Rhine. I think they got the res off, I'm not 100% sure, but you could have put your shield way closer to the car and been up with your hog, and it probably would have been more beneficial to make sure they can't regroup and still take that fight. Sitting further back there wasn't really necessary.
I can't hear you because the people in the background.
Bitch, you know you're just overextended. You shouldn't be doing that.
I can't hear you though.
You shouldn't be doing it in the first place, dude. Come on.
Quiet, I can hear that. I want to kick back a lot. I thought you were all up there because you were all on the line, so I don't just follow the shield. Follow the shield. We can recontest. Let's swap on a Diva. We're coming up with Nano.
Eating my shit again.
So there you didn't really look if your team was following you up at all. You put your shield like way up there, but you were down one and you probably should have just held off because the cart wasn't super close to the point yet, and you might have had time to regroup or get a pick from one of them pushing up and trying to punish you like way up front like their Reaper just did. I think you went up a little too far without looking to see if you had support.
I think, do we need to switch our DPS? We're double hit scan right now.
I'm still new at this.
We need a Reaper of our own, perhaps.
You need somebody to kill this Reaper. He just walks in and kills our
I just haven't been able to stay alive for the last
I know, regardless of why it's not working, it ain't working.
I'm not entirely sure why they're using Nano on you here. I mean, the Diva Bomb was far enough back too. I think you could have just stayed on the right side of the shield, but that's not a huge issue. Like, I don't know. I don't think Nano really needed to be used on you there. It's hard to get a lot of value out of it unless your supercharger's down and their shield's already weak.
Widow's on the left side.
Widow's left side.
Widow's left side. Get over here.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop longbows here.
That is a perfect time to use Vongos. You did a good job backing up, making space, making sure your team has nothing to punish it right away, and now their Rhine's incredibly out of position. You win this fight because of the damage boost.
I'm gonna break the shield, I'm gonna break the shield. There you go. I got the res off. God damn it. This Reaper is carrying, that is so...
At this point, I would say just go Rhine. Because their Rhine has Shatter, and you're in a tough spot. You keep getting rolled by this Reaper, and I think being Rhine will help keep him deterred because you can move your shield around and block him a lot easier.
An 82 Diva Bomb.
Well, their Widow is in our spawn. What the hell?
Helden sterben nicht.
Got you. Good job, Eddie.
That's a fucking huge. Yeah. Hey, Ryan.
There's a Reaper behind. Look at the Reaper on our wrist.
Yo,
Like, he's still
can
back
we
there. No one's turning
please?
back for him.
Yeah.
Whoever was all the way up there needed to peel back for you. I think maybe calling him in would have helped for sure, but you also ignored the Reaper for a pretty long time, even when you were up 2 with the Diva Bomb. I think dealing with especially a Reaper behind you is probably the biggest priority. You walked past him and then didn't really say anything about him after that.
Yeah, we're still.
Reaper's low, Reaper's one.
Diva's throwing a bomb. Diva's throwing a bomb.
I must rejoin
We need to focus our
Their
calls
Widow's
on
fucking.
3 different things.
I was so good.
Again, I think switching to Ryan would have helped a lot with that fight.
Because of their Reaper coming in the back.
Yeah, we need to kill those Reapers.
It's easy to say, but
Yeah, we called the. No, it's not a difficult thing that we're
But he
making
killed their whole
mistakes.
entire
It's not like
team.
this Reaper's a
The only
freak.
person left was the Reaper on our Rissa. We fought it like 3 times, and no one other than like
I
Peter
was
was
dead.
at one point.
I was dead.
Exactly.
I was-
No, there were other
I-
people. Nobody
I-
turned
I
around, and we
saw
also
Reaper.
were. Can I
I
clear
saw like
comms for
2
1
people
second?
pushing up after
Clear comms for 1 second. Yeah, clear comms for 1 second. We had a couple people pushing up, and we also had someone calling Lucio for some reason. Like, fuck Lucio in that point. Lucio's not fucking us up. It's the Reaper. We gotta focus the Reaper.
I know, but he was dead.
My only comment is Lucio was.
It doesn't
like, one
matter,
hit,
'cause
which is,
Lucio's
why
not gonna-
someone called it, but that's all I had to say about that one. Lucio was just literally like 10 health and antied, but I see what you mean. The Reaper obviously was the problem there.
I'm trying to survive right there. I'm not trying to get
Right.
picks. The number one thing about defense is surviving, not getting picks.
Here's one of the things we can do, and this comes into the how hard to just kill the Reaper. If we could hit.
I'm telling you how. We need to focus and turn around.
This to turn around isn't as easy as the buff. Just listen, please. If we could hit an anti on Reaper, that would be so huge to take away the buff, and he either has to utilize Rage to get out of there, or he dies. So,
I mean, I honestly don't think we should run dive when the Reaper was the biggest issue. That's just my
yeah.
Are we running dive? I don't think we should.
I don't-
What
I'll
do
go
we
I
got?
feel like if
I'll
we
go
have a
sorry.
damage boost that could help. Can I stay Mercy?
Huh?
Can I stay Mercy?
Real sorry that way.
Yeah,
That way our Reaper doesn't pick me off.
This tank combo is a lot better. If you would have run dive, I would not have solved your problem with the Reaper. He's kind of nutty right now with the buff, running
I'm
monkey
gonna,
and
my shield's not
humans.
gonna last
I'll
long
rip.
without-
I have 40 total.
I'm actually, I don't think Reaper has the buff in
I had 80
at this point.
Try to move
We're
low.
going to.
You don't have to call it.
You do this calling out shit, man.
Yeah, sorry, it's okay. It's okay, I appreciate the effort.
I can't.
Hey, just pause
Hog
it.
user, hog user, hog user.
Also,
Hog after, hog after.
Fat bubble.
You're leaving your team alone.
I can't see you in there, Ryan.
No! Sorry.
You would have been better off just dropping and slowly pushing.
Dude,
Even after that pin, you probably should have just backed up and swung from outside the room.
Yeah, we're fine. Yeah,
You have to like push
we
into
win
that
here
room.
as long as we get that.
It's the only person alive. It's like, we're not gonna win that. Like everyone just pushed in one by one into that little room. It's crazy.
I claim this objective.
That was well timed. Good kill. Zen's on your left.
We're gonna win. We win this fight. Yes, winning this fight.
You can shield hop to get away from that faster. Just spamming your shield and jumping at the same time would have probably helped you out to get away from that Zen faster and back to your team.
Thought we were.
Don't use cursor bubble.
Yeah, let's group up.
That's not a good idea. Even if you want to get charged, it's not good.
I missed that. What'd you say? Don't use it on what?
Don't use cursor bubble to get charged from Starry, not from Bob. Better use it.
Do you want to go around left?
You can use grab.
Oh, later, Roach.
I can run
Foster
back.
here.
Yeah,
Foster
it's not work.
My shield's gonna break. I
I was just push one.
can't. I got
I
boot,
was
bro.
trying to.
Do we want to run a pharmacy?
Okay, so if you're gonna push left, especially into a bunker comp, you need to save as much shield power as you possibly can to get close to them. And right there, you hard shielded and walked right at them, so you didn't have a shield before you were even at them, and that's exactly what that comp thrives on. It's keeping you away from them and trying to destroy your shield. So either shield hopping, trying to use a support ult early and then not using your shield so that you can be kept up without using your shield to get close to them. I would also want to see a Lucio here to help speed boost and close that gap faster so you don't have to use as much shield to get there. Those are all things that could help you out without having to waste your entire shield before you're in position to do any damage.
No, they have a Zen, a Mercy, and an Ash.
Yeah, well, we're not even getting in there to kill.
You're sitting on a ton of ults right now. I would definitely be talking to your team, trying to communicate what else you're going to combo, when you're going to use Nano, if you should use Valk right away. Stuff like that. You have a lot of ults to turn this fight.
Anything with their damage.
Coming
Okay,
up
I
on
can switch to
ultimate.
Lucio.
We're coming up on ultimate.
No, I don't
Let's
think the
just
heals
use
is
them.
the issue. The shield's just getting like
Number one
instant
thing is just
destroyed.
make bad decisions. Yeah, no, it's...
We're coming up on ultimate. Let's focus on that. What are we gonna use? They're gonna have trance, right? Let's use grab. We'll wait out trance, and after grab, then we can shatter all of them. After trance.
That's coming to our right. Later.
Gotta be split up. I think that's kind of more on the Zarya since you got hooked, but yeah.
We have one last push.
I back up. Okay, I'm just in cyber.
This is not over.
You've been sitting on ults way too long. I don't think any of the 4 you have been used this entire attack.
Really hard. My shields, a lot of my shields getting melted because we don't have Lucio. Like I just, it's taking too long.
It's a really good call.
Lucio, like kind of like.
Okay, I'm just in these balls.
We just like also aren't pushing him. Even if we had a speed boost, we're still the
I
same.
can't push in because I don't have a speed boost though. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
I know, but you
Yeah.
You can hold on to your shatter there a little longer. That was still huge.
You're listening to me? Yeah.
I am. You're saying
We could have won that fight.
You're just standing there. If your shield's getting shot, you can't just stand there. You have to either move.
I
You
know how
can't just stand still.
I think you both have a point there. The Lucio would be super nice. However, you need to be flashing your shield, jumping, doing anything you can to maintain your shield, which you're not exactly doing.
That was a map that we.
Okay, I'm gonna say this right now. We don't need to be talking to each other like that. That doesn't need to be happening. That kind of attitude stuff. Doesn't need to happen.
Yeah.
I said something and you weren't listening, so I saved it again. That's not like I'm not talking to you like you're not listening to what I'm saying.
Stop.
You're continuing to give me attitude right now. I'd appreciate it if you just kind of dropped it.
Alright, I gotta get off, so see you guys later.
Alright, later. Dude, that's 2-3 times that she's done that shit now.
Yeah.
Go to dead.
Wait, it's not.
I think Grant, you're gonna have to be on Zen.
Oh, okay.
So I think some of the reason that argument happened, this isn't really what I'm supposed to be coaching, to be honest, but I think you gotta look in and realize that there's sides to both of that argument and not just, I don't know, it kind of felt like you were both basically brushing off anything you had to say to each other without taking in the value that you guys both had some pretty solid points.
Len, we get you on the Lucio. And then, Roach, would you prefer to play either Brig or Diva here?
I think I'll take Zarya.
Okay, Godfather, would you mind playing Diva so Roach can pick up the player?
So no, well, I don't hate her. It's just annoying. Oh, junk. Mine's Zarya.
Okay, let's posture right here. Oh, watch out, watch out.
Hello, friends.
Good, Godfather. We can push
Move forward.
Good.
This is a weird rotation. You want to hug that corner and get in as fast as you can.
Pushing on here.
Do not need to pin into that. That was a very long pin, but you got the mega, so I guess it worked out. But you saw the Rhine shield was low.
Let's go. Ryan's low.
Come on, Junk's one. Junk is dead.
Okay, so your pin kind of worked out, but your team had their Rhine shield down. Really, all you need to do to make a lot safer play is to speed into their Rhine and get some good swings off at them, and that fight momentum shifts your way instead of the long pin across.
You get the Moira next?
You got the Moira?
No. Nice job, guys.
Ash. Where's the Ash?
Where they at? What ultimates are we coming up on? What do you think
Oh,
they
might have
They
B.
probably
I'm gonna
have
get
Bob.
my easy.
Oh, you're here.
Oops.
Down low.
Come on, Junk's one. Junk
Damn it.
They
I'm
probably
gonna
have
get
Bob.
my easy.
Alright, Len.
Hey, okay, hold on real quick. Grant, you use transfer Bob, and then can we save beat for grab because they have an on.
You want me to transfer Bob? Or
Trans
their
Bob.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
Watch out for
You both have the same
beat for
time.
grab.
flop.
Push left.
This is a weird path.
Junk time left side.
Let's go around.
I'm gonna go on